No, that's not really. You can. So, yeah. Shall I? You're all set? Feeling comfortable with your spot? We can widen them a bit if you want. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, get closer. All set? Yeah? Okay. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see such a crowd at the Blue Stage again. Welcome from our side. I will introduce the panelists in a minute. My name is Esther Roth. I'm working at the city of Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and I'm a program manager for the maritime sector. We're here to talk about green corridors and green hubs and the do's and don'ts, and if it can successfully be established. In Rotterdam, we have 2 green corridors, one to Oslo. I think the first ships will sail under this corridor at 2027, so that is in the near future. We have also a green corridor to Singapore. It will take a bit longer, 28, 29 maybe. And we have a great panel to talk about this. Our previous section was about funding and financing decarbonization, so I think that's all sorted. Been there, done that, and now just establishing the lines. I have to put on my glasses. Helene Tofte, she's Executive Director of the Department of International Cooperation and Climate of the Norwegian Shipowners Association, and she also worked in Brussels as a political affairs, and she knows everything about the Norwegian fleet and how it is going with decarbonization on that. Gitte Livbjerg. She has a 20-year background in the energy industry, and she has recently joined in 23 the Mærsk Mc-Kinney Mæller Center. It's a non-profit organization for a zero-carbon city, and her team is working currently at about 15 feasibility studies or pre-feasibility studies on green corridors. Next one is Heidi. Sorry, I'm passing through the ladies first. Heidi, she's an area manager of DNV Maritime, overseeing maritime operations, and DNV is an important player in the classification of decarbonized ships, but also advising on green corridors and green hubs, and she's a strategic facilitator. In the middle, Rene Wigmans. He has more than 25 years of experience in driving innovative operations. He works at Clarksons Port Services as a managing director, and he has also a background in large-scale wind energy, so a lot of renewable energy experience over there. And then finally, Ben Sclüter. I'm sorry. He's a manager at PwC of the Maritime Competence Center, and he's an experienced shipping professional and consultant of the Maritime Competence Center, focusing on global shipping industry and working on projects worldwide. So then you know who's in front of you. I wanted to start off with a general question about green lines. What are the effects of green shipping corridors, and do you think that's a good method of getting greener shipping in the future? Maybe Helene, you can start off with that.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. The Norwegian Shipowners Association, we represent 135 Norwegian shipping companies operating worldwide. A great focus of our members has been for many years and is still to decarbonize the industry, to reduce emissions. And that is what this is about as well, from a ship owner's perspective. If we are to cut emission, we have to invest heavily in new technology, and we have to invest heavily in new fuels. And there's a lot of barriers to overcome in order to sort of get where we want to be, gradually reducing our emissions and becoming climate neutral in 2050. And in order to get there, we need new instruments, we need new ways of cooperating, and we need new incentives for the industry to decarbonize quicker and faster. And in that respect, we believe that green corridors could be one such instrument. We need more, but the green corridors could be one instrument of cooperation, bringing different actors together and making sure that you de-risk the process, because that's what it's all about. Reducing barriers, de-risking, and most importantly, making sure that that new alternative fuels, which is needed, that is accessible in the ports where you need it to be accessible. So in that respect, it is definitely an important part of the solution and one of several tools that are needed.
Yeah. Thank you. In de-risking, I think ports also play a major role, and I go to you, Rene, as a port services company. Not really the port itself, but maybe you can get also the perspective from that port side on green shipping corridors.
Yeah, we clearly see the advantage of it. What we really like is that you move from a theoretical aspect to operational aspect, bringing the actors together actually that are willing to move forward a bit of against the stream, ahead of the curve. It actually has a unique opportunity to enhance technology, but also interest investors in looking at it in a different way. And de-risking is more be ready for the future, because we need to be ready for 2050. I think we already have limited time left. Where we clearly, from a port perspective, see is the transition into a different proposition value of a port. Not just as transition of goods, but also be the energy hub, and thereby also attract different people, different companies, have a different position in the whole value chain.
Yeah. Thank you. We had a preparation talk, and so we agreed on that, that it's a really good, effective instrument to have these green lines, but of course there are some barriers. Maybe Heidi, from the DNV point of view, you see a lot of vessels, but also green corridors. What do you think is the major barrier to overcome? Maybe we can overcome it now.
Yeah, I think in DNV we are working with a lot of different stakeholders, bringing them together and discussing this. And I think if you look at the demand side and also the cost side, we might say that we have a chicken and egg situation. So the ship owners, they are maybe a little bit hesitant to invest in this and invest in the new technologies, while on the fuel suppliers, they are reluctant to scale up. So like you said, we need some incentives. We need some incentives to work together to have the green corridors up and running, or to have actually carbon neutral fuels and technologies up and running. And I think the green corridors is one way to look at this.
And is it a financial incentive mostly, or also incentives to give more experience or experiment room for experiments?
Yeah, I think we can say both. I think so. So of course it have a cost aspect if you are investing in this, both in the technologies and also, like I said, for the fuel suppliers. So we need infrastructures around as well. So I think you can say it's also a cost perspective here.
Yeah. Maybe Gitte, you mentioned cooperation is the key factor to establishing the green lines. Who should start cooperation, or where to begin with that?
I think collaboration is the only way we can get the transition started properly. I know there is starting, but get it moving, get that critical mass rolling. Collaboration is very important. The feasibility studies we do on green corridors in the Center for Zero Carbon Shipping are full value chain projects, so that we have the fuel producers, we have the ports involved, we have the vessel owners or operators, and we've got the cargo owners involved. I think having that full perspective and having that group to work as a team trying to solve this, and actually then calculate the needed funding, I think, and I'm very happy to say that you say that the funding is sorted, because I think that is definitely one of the main barriers that we see. It is not business as usual at the moment. I think the green corridors have a period of time where they can help breaking that chicken-egg stalemate that we sit in. At some point, there'll be enough cost down, and then you can see that it will be business as usual. Somebody will be willing to take that risk and invest in it, and it becomes normalized and just as we run it. But until then, the green corridors are a needed tool. Not the only one, I think I totally agree, it's just one of many. But yeah, the funding is very needed, and by collaborating, you can spread out the cost and assess the willingness to pay, but it will need subsidies to get started. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Okay, and corridors which you are involved in, how many are reaching the point that there are actually realized, or in the near future realized?
So none of them are realized yet. We have a couple of projects that are quite far discussing with governments about the funding.
Yeah.
The methodology we developed look at how the willingness to pay can be shared across all the participants in the consortium that we're working with. But it's also still up to governments to realize the last bit. And obviously it's not just necessarily one pot of money that can pay everything out of one ministry. Usually it's a patchwork of different solutions that has to be worked out.
But you are confident that they're all will get there, or do you think they're...
No, I don't think they will all be there. I think that's probably unlikely, given that if you have any portfolio of projects will go through maturations, and not all of them will be realized, but hopefully there'll be enough of the ones that we're doing right now, plus the ones that's coming in, plus the ones that other people are involved with, and it will create that momentum to get things rolling. It is about the supply and demand chicken egg situation that has to be broken, and the green corridors provide a bit of a sandbox to test that in.
Yeah, maybe it's a good going to you then, Ben. You mentioned maybe some lines should be specialized, or ports should be specialized in some kind of fuel. Is that the near future for lines, or do they have to have the whole multi-fuel package?
I think in the end we see various solutions, as you can already see when you look at the green corridors today. We have a little over, I believe, 60 green corridor initiatives. And out of these, 30 have not yet decided upon which alternative fuel to use. And 15, like a quarter, has decided on one type of alternative fuel, and another quarter has decided on multiple types of fuels. So they're already going in that way. And it is my position that we see both strategies, the multi-fuel strategy as well as the mono-fuel strategy, with the larger ports with the large trading volumes and the lots of port calls and lots of stakeholders, that they would have a tendency to probably use the multi-fuel model, whereas for the smaller ones it wouldn't make too much sense actually. And speaking a primary stakeholder in these green corridors are of course the shipping lines, the ship operators, the ship owners. And it's very obviously they have to make a very, very careful decision on which path to go actually. Otherwise, they don't want to end up with a suboptimal solution, which will cost them a lot of money. It's sunk cost then basically. So that's of course a very important topic. And this multi-fuel strategy will bring definitely value for that, because it diversifies the risk. However, it's obviously more costly to have this infrastructure, this double infrastructure there in the ports. Yeah.
Yeah. And how about the times right now? Because we live in a very volatile time. Do you think it's still the right time to invest now in green corridors, or is it just slipping through our fingers, maybe?
Well, I think considering the last 5 years in shipping, I think the times were actually pretty good to invest in green corridors. The reason being as follows. A lot of money has been earned in shipping, so the funds were there. I would ask myself, if not now, when? Because we all know the shipping business, it's super volatile, and if the next shipping crisis is around the corner, these projects are going to be deprioritized, that's clear. And also geopolitically, there seems to be in the media always one topic, that's the focus topic, and the momentum is shifting at the moment, I would say. We have other topics like Ukraine, the tariff war, etc. So the focus is gone on the sustainability aspect a little bit, I would say. That's my perception. So I think these initiatives should take off now.
Yeah.
Can I just
Helene?
comment on that? Because it's not only about building trust in green corridors, it's about building trust in the transition as such. And then there are so many different factors that have to work together. One of them is on the regulatory side, because we can give certainty through regulations, or the one that regulates can do that. But we also see within our memberships, we do a yearly survey, and the current order book, there is still more than 70% of the ships now being built are built with alternative fuel solutions. So the trust, I would say, is still there, but it's extremely important that the regulations are followed up and that we sort of help building trust moving forward as well in a very uncertain world.
And then it's, IMO that should step forward, or maybe also national governments?
Definitely, both from our perspective, both national governments, the EU and the IMO, of course. Yeah. And we were saying that green corridors is one of different ways of building trust, different ways of making the transition happen quicker. There's a lot of other tools that are needed as well. We need to see more investments, and we need to see fuel prices going down. I believe that you need new instruments for securing that. That can be done through, on the European level, through the Innovation Fund. On a national level, it can be done through different types of incentives nationally. Yeah. But then in the end of the day, of course, we are a global industry. So we strongly need one set of global regulations to make sure that it's not only European trading or ships in European trade that are paying ETS money. We need to see that on a global scale. Yeah. And that's why the decision by MEPC 83 on the 11th of April was so important, because that will help bring down uncertainties and build that trust that is so strongly needed, more needed now than before even. Yeah. And that is also why it is so important that when this is finally, the net zero framework is finally voted over in October, that we still have a majority, a two-third majority, which is what we need to make sure that we have that regulation. Because that will, again, be one clear way of the IMO building trust to the decarbonization process of this industry.
Yeah, thank you. Gitte, you wanted to react on that?
Yeah, I think I completely agree that it's not just about the green corridors in isolation, it's about the transition as a whole, and we need to invest in it. I think it's really important. Everybody is waiting for this cost down, but the cost down comes with economies of scale. So if everybody's waiting because it's cheaper tomorrow or next year, the cost down will not happen. So we have to start that curve making its way downwards, and that's only by somebody, as you were saying, stepping in front of the others, taking the risk, making the investments. And I'll, coming from a not for profit, I'll jump on my NGO soapbox. It's like, get going.
Okay, well, I was wondering, because there's the key role for ship owners, the key role for ports, I guess, but I think there's also a key role for the cargo transport, or the cargo owners. Do you, Rene, see them getting involved in green shipping corridors, or should we drag them to this process?
I think yes and no. It's all about money in the end. I think that's bottom line always talks. However, if you look at the green corridors as an enabler, and then specifically if it's a corridor, having a ship owner moving vessel on a fixed trade pattern, etc., like Samskip with the sea shuttle, that's a unique example, I would say, where it is possible. And what I like about ship owners, they are alternative fuels ready. Normally it's just an empty area in the vessel where they say you can put batteries or fuel cell or whatever. So yes, they show they're ready, but some of the vessel owners, I must admit, they're very proactive and actually are ahead of the curve, and they see the opportunities because also they see it as a unique selling point. And I think actually that companies that are ahead of the curve also sell sustainability as an opportunity, specifically in the renewable business. So I truly hope that is an enabler to move these forwards, also on technology side, because that's something where it's for youth, universities, shipbuilding, a different way of looking at these developments, where I think for the future or our next generation or youth, from an education perspective, this is super interesting. And when the IMO then ticks the box, I think it's better to not spend the money on the ETS and invest it in green opportunities within your own company.
Okay, maybe we'll move on to what I wanted to ask you, Heidi, about your experience in. Well, I've got. Sorry about that. Sorry. Yeah. Well, maybe. I wanted to ask about the planning of the production of the green fuels and also the demand of the green fuels. I think some of the green corridors are struggling with that to get the demand at the same time as the production side of the. Do you have any experience on that? How to do this?
In the end, maybe not how to do this, but we have been working on this Nordic roadmap on how to work on green corridors, bringing the stakeholders together. So having the ship owners, having the ports, having the fuel suppliers, and also in DNV we can work with, let's say, the government, with IMO, trying to have the safety standards and regulations also being worked on and being developed. So not being involved in these barriers, but I think what is important is to bring all these stakeholders together and discuss it. And I think we actually all are aiming for the same. We want to go the same way, so we just need to find out how can we use the green corridors. They can be pilots, but also pilots, they are still being then working towards 2030 and the goal we want to achieve, and then ultimately towards 2050.
Yeah.
And so I think just working together, DNV being there to have the discussions, to bring this forward, to put safety on the table, I think as well. We are talking about risk. Yeah. So having these safety standards, I think is very important also going forward.
Yeah. So the common safety standards throughout globally, you mean also. And talking about cooperation and sharing knowledge together, we were talking about transparency, and transparency maybe in what are risks for which partner, transparency in the financial issues. Do you think, maybe Gitte or Ben, do you experience that we are more transparent? I think maybe the maritime sector can improve in that.
Coming from a smaller ship owner, I would say it's a diversified picture that we have. I know that the smaller ship owners are very hesitant on being transparent. The reason being sometimes is the charter contracts. They have a certain fear that by publishing too much information, the charter, who is usually the more powerful party between the two, can take advantage.
Yeah. So Well, are you then saying that the larger ship owners should, well, bring forward this transition, or and that the smaller will follow?
For the smaller ship owners, if they right now there's a, let me put it mildly, a certain risk attached to going to a certain way, certain fuel alternative, picking a certain fuel alternative.
Yeah.
And for the smaller and medium-sized ship owners, this can be, if this doesn't work out in the end, this can be business ending. Yeah. So it would be, I think, more pragmatic, more goal-oriented if the bigger ship owners would make the first move, which they are doing at the part of the green corridors.
Yeah.
Yeah? And then the smaller ship owners could follow their lead, because then they have a certain certainty of which path is going to be chosen.
Yeah. Is this also your experience?
Yeah, just a point on that, because we now have regulations in place, so whether you want or not want, you have to prepare for reducing your emissions. We have European legislation in place, and we will most likely, hopefully, have global regulations in place. So all companies need to start preparing for how to meet these new regulations, big and small companies. But then, as you're saying, to have some sort of pioneer projects is very important. So some companies really going that extra mile, testing new technology, testing new fuels, that will be important for the smaller ones as well. And just one more thing on Heidi's point, because you were talking about the projects you've been doing in the Nordics, and that is also about, and I know you worked on this as well, bringing in the smaller harbors, you know, seeing where does it make sense, which fuels, how do we do this, not only the big harbors, but the smaller harbors as well. And then by building trust, that's about bringing partners together. And it's about, we were talking about safety of fuels, but it's also training of crew. So make sure that you have all that regulation gradually now falling into place. That will be key for this, for the whole process to succeed.
Yeah. And do you see that also within your member in the fleet of the, your members from the Norwegian association, that they're stepping up?
Definitely. Yeah. We have both a lot of groundbreaking projects in Norway among our members, but we also see that, you know, companies, they're all doing something, and there's also different ways of meeting the request to reduce emissions. There's a lot of good work being done also on having more efficient operations, and for most companies that will be how you meet the requirements in the years to come, but eventually, of course, you have to change fuels as well. So these different methods and these different ways of meeting the requirements and reducing emissions have to go hand in hand.
One of the topics or questions on this session was also, are green corridors, green hubs the way forward to maybe make the whole ocean green, or every shipping line green? What's your perspective on that, Gitte? Is that...
So I think, referring back to what I said earlier, I think there's a time period where the green corridors are relevant. It is now, and it's when you get... At some point, I mean, we're talking about the cost down, so the alternative fuels will come down in price, maybe. And at some point, they will cross the combination of the cost of the fossil fuels and potential taxes and levies on top of that. And when they cross, obviously, then there's a business case. And before that time, there will also be people who are willing to run the risk, and they will invest, and they will run that, as I said, as a business as usual. So in that time period, there will be green corridors necessary to keep this going. But after that, then it's not about green corridors. Then it's maybe more about compliant, not compliant, because there will be regulations in place ensuring that. Yeah. If I can go back just to the thing on transparency, I think it's very important with the transparency. And it comes on different levels. So the feasibility studies we do are always done on under an NDA, so that the whole consortium can share their data. I completely agree with what you're saying, Ben. Nobody wants to put their all their information out in the open. But under an NDA, we can actually create that team that then shares that data, so we can calculate the incremental cost of green, and we can calculate the cost gap that has to be covered. It also means that they have a safe space where they can discuss their own willingness to pay and their own contributions into this. And then when you then finish the study, you actually have a consolidated figure that you can take to, for instance, a government and say, this is the amount of money needed to support this corridor. So the transparency, I think, is very needed to create maybe some safe spaces, particularly in the beginning. And then I think being data-driven is also another thing. If it's all data-based, then it's a lot easier to discuss, and it's not about what somebody thinks or feels. So that transparency in itself is also really important, that it's all traceable. We have made this decision because the data tells us that.
Thank you. You want to reflect on that?
Yeah, it was the first point, whether it was relevant or not, or it's a good solution with the green corridors, and I absolutely agree. But like you say, it's the timing, and it's not the only thing. It's a lot of the things we can do. You mentioned it, and in the end, digitalization, using the data, but also digitalization can give us some input on the energy efficiency actually on board, because saving energy in itself is also one step on the way. So I think that is really important. And okay, we see that some of these green corridors, the initiatives, they take a little bit longer than first expected. But saving energy on the way is really important as well. I just wanted to mention it.
Yeah. So don't despair, you're already saving some energy then. Maybe from your perspective, Rene, I think maybe there are some people in the audience that are involved in a green shipping corridor or want to initiate one. What will you give them from your perspective as advice to start or to go to or to involve in this process?
That's a good one. Yeah. At least find the right actors or people around or companies that have the same mindset, the early engagement. Of course, I would say contact Clarksons. We can support you. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And DNV. No, I mean, I think you need enablers. People with the same mindset, actors with the same mindset. Definitely harbor authorities, shipping associates, but also clearly ship owners. And that's why, back to these green corridors, you know what is A and B, so the fuel optimization, digitalization, but also you have a smaller group of participants, I would almost say. Yeah. So it's probably easier to use it as an icebreaker, to make this start, to get it actually over the line of operations, and not that it remains a business case somewhere in somebody's desk or drawer. Back to data. For any business case to be successful, you need data, and not only, pink and rainbow ideas. Even though we believe in it, we also need to make sure it is actually valuable and make it happen. Because in the end, lower fuel consumption, improved operation patterns, but also when in harbor, the turnaround time needs to be as efficient as possible. The alternative fuels availability also to connect and disconnect, to bunker, either from truck to vessel, or you name it, the safety aspect, but also then going inland. How do we deal with that? Does it stop at the gates of the port, or do we also make sure till a certain parameter outside the port that it also is within this green corridor? So the start is, I think, if you have an idea, if you're open to it, and I hope at least after this session you're a bit more inspired, at least you can always reach out to us. And just have a workshop, start with it, get it going.
And speaking about data, are you collecting data on green corridors? Is there any data available that people can maybe publicly or access, that they have a strong argument to start because it's proven or parts of it are proven? I know. Yeah.
I have my Clarksons hat today. We have a department within Clarksons Research, and there's a lot of data actually available. It's a lot of different data, but actually then you need to define if the data actually helps your defining your business case and need.
Yeah. Helene?
We don't work specifically on one green corridors, but we've done a lot of work on transparency in terms of emissions for the members that we represent. So we publish emission figures for the total fleet of our members, which gives us very valuable information. First of all, it shows that, or it confirms that shipping is a big polluter. Our members pollute almost 29 million tons CO2 equivalents, which is actually 60% of the total emissions of Norway. So that is also a proof of the importance of yeah, exactly. But it also gives us information that 20% of those emissions happens within Europe, or is part of the emission trading scheme. So it sort of shows where the emission takes place, and is one step in the direction of being transparent and having more data. So we published this for the second time this year, and we'll continue doing that, and also continue going even further into details. And many of our members as well have very detailed emission figures and data. So it's definitely one part of the sort of way forward to make sure that you have the right data and that it helps you to make better proposals and decisions. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, Gitte.
Yeah, so our pre-feasibility studies are all done on public data. So the initial screening can be done on the internet. I mean, most of what we find there is either something that we scout ourselves, or we receive it from the people that we're working with in the different regions and countries. So getting started, data is not an excuse, I think. And as you say, reach out, find that consortium. You're going to need the full value chain in there if you want to succeed. And then for us, at least the way that we're working with it is not until we get to the feasibility stage that we actually need the NDA and the more confidential data to build the cost model. But to initiate something and screen out potential green corridors in a region, that can be done on public data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we're reaching the end of the session. Maybe Ben, do you have something you want to give the audience as a takeaway from this session?
Yeah, maybe as a key success, my opinion on the key success factors for green corridors. I would like to point out two here. One has been talked over and over again. It's a collaboration between the most important stakeholders. Why is that so important? Because it just creates a forum for them to interact, to give the transparency that we just talked about, to create transparency over cost, and then also, once they are together, they can lobby successful together, maybe for government funding, because this is vital at this stage, considering the, let's say, the cargo owners that are maybe willing, according to current surveys, to take up a 4% increase in freight rates. Well, the cost is higher than that. So there's a huge gap that needs to be covered by government funding, and these Green Corridors initiatives are so valuable because of the collaboration of it. And yes, and that's actually also my second point is, as of now, Green Corridors are dependent on government incentives in a very strong way. It's not a business case, and that is a very important part of funding. That's maybe.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe Heidi, can you elaborate on that?
To continue on that one, I think, of course, copying a lot of what you're saying, but also the thing that, DNV and also the other stakeholders to actively work on the regulatory process and to make sure that we accelerate, I would say, the development of the safety standards. Yeah. I think that will be a key going forward.
So safety also in this, maybe Ben? Sorry, Rene?
No, collaboration definitely one. I think going forward, be ahead of the curve. Show, at least dare to show a bit of how do you call that? Bravery and move ahead.
Up.
Stepping up. Work together, reach out to your partners and make it happen, because we can't wait.
Well, we should close with that, but we have still...
we should close for that. I think a lot of what I would like you to take away from today has already been said. The collaboration, it's not the business as usual. We can't wait. So reach out, find out in your own organization, what's your willingness to pay? Who is it you need to speak to make something happen? The whole value chain is needed, so everybody can start somewhere, and you just need to find the rest. Once you get one, then you're two, and you can start extending your network, find the last 3 or 4 players that you need to make it succeed, and identify within your own organization where can you find the money to pay for something, because we all have to pay for this eventually. We're talking about subsidies now, they are needed, but ultimately it's going to be you and me and all of us paying for the green transition, not tomorrow, but maybe in 10, 15 years' time. So that also has to transition.
Yeah. And then finally, Helene.
Yeah, just maybe going back to where I started, I think it's important to, have a focus on that, what the main target here is, and that is to reduce emissions. And then green corridors can be part of that solution, but it has to work hand in hand with the regulation and also with other type of initiatives. And we need all solutions on the table, and this is one of them.
Okay, so we're reaching the end of our session. I think maybe you couldn't miss it, but collaboration is the key to this green corridors. And with collaboration comes the funding, the regulatory framework, the partners you need to establish everything, the demands and supply side to get it tied together, and then we'll be very successful, I think, in establishing green corridors. Thank you to the panel. I enjoyed being with you. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a pleasant day at North Shipping tonight.